Hello and welcome to Hyper Annotations, streamed live from Venice, in front of the amazing church that TBA 21 has given to us for our series. And I'm sitting with Andrej Tomažin, and I'm interested, what is your magazine working with? What kind of theories are you trying to integrate in into the Western canon of philosophy and theory?
Yeah, so we at Shroom Magazine, where I'm also the editor, um, we came from a local Slovenian contemporary art space, and since we saw that for example, in different countries in Europe, Australia, United States, whatever, there are theories which are in a way not known in Slovenia. We first try to kind of integrate this kind of theories into the local space. But as the years passed, few years, we saw that Shroom Magazine could be used as a platform which could bring together different people from different kind of philosophical and theoretical positions, but at the same time interested in the same themes in a way. So as you said, the theoretical positions are not that easy, to kind of a pinpoint in a way that, I don't know, we have different editions, and editions talk about different themes in a way. So we have a theme which is the current theme, which was published for the Venice Biennale, and it was commissioned by Slovenian Pavilion by Marko Pelhan and the collaborators. It is concerned with, in general terms, with the future, with the exit, which is quite important theme at the moment, and how, for example, I don't know, humanity will exit the place which is actually ruining, and so on. But the idea was that to surround this art piece with a theoretical contextualization, which is actually not directly connected with the art piece which will be produced later. So it is called Marko Pelhan did the hypersonic vehicle, and we did this around it, hypersonic hyperstitions. So as a hyperstation comes from the theories of CCRU from the 90s, and now we have all this theoretical field of new realisms, of rationalism, and so on coming along, and we try to kind of integrate these new theoretical views together, to bring it along with this art piece. Because, for example, we have in the magazine texts by Reza Negarestani, by Luciana Parisi, by fiction writer Peter Watts, etc., etc. And it's kind of a different people who are interesting in the way they deal with certain problems of how future might look like. And this is kind of also connected with the name of the Biennale and so on. So in a way, that would be it.
Slovenia has a long-standing history of science fiction and futurism that is very often overlooked in the place where I come, at least, Austria, and I also think in the general West. Mm-hmm. And do you see yourself as a continuation or as a new grounding for futurist history of Slovenia, or what was the beginning of your magazine? Where did it come from?
Yeah, so I mean, in a way, it would be hard to kind of connect with this kind of a heritage, which is present in history of Slovenian art in a way, or culture, but of course it is connected in the sense that it brings together different topics which were used at that, I don't know, in history, literature. I think the idea that the younger generation should, in a way, its own platform, develop new ideas, futuristic ideas, because you know in Slovenia you have this important art movement and so on, which is kind of the only thing which is known outside of Slovenia. So how to bring these different new topics towards west, towards east, actually just outside of the borders of Slovenia. So that is at one. So it is kind of a, you know, you have a border, and the ideas go both ways. So that's the idea of Shroom. So some things come inside, some things go outside, but the idea is actually, you know, on the Venice Biennale you have this kind of national pavilions, which is in a sense a bit ridiculous in this day and age, but at the same time this is the idea how Venice Biennale works. The idea of Shroom is also how to use this old, traditional, conservative, whatever forms to develop ideas which might work for let us say for future.
I'm reminded by your description of the operational schemata of Shroom by one book of my former professor Peter Sloterdijk, the Spheres book, and because there is a part of the book where how different spheres are interconnected. So there's the inside that becomes the outside of one sphere, and then there is this shared space which in itself becomes a zone where that is shared, but it's still an exclusionary zone for both places, because not the whole sphere is included in that. So I'm quite interested in the idea of this nexus, the nexus where new ideas are intermixed and things are thrown in and have to meet with other ideas and other concepts and are therefore interchanged. Basically, method stars. They become something other than both creators, the historical creator, then the local creator, and the international creator would have ever thought. And so how can we foster this exchange even more?
I will give you one analogy that I remembered now. You know, the time when the Go player, the one who was a world champion for, I think, 18 times or something, won against artificial intelligence. Kind of you know, when he was playing against human players, he was playing a play of Go, which was played for thousands and thousands of years, you know. And when artificial intelligence came, he immediately saw the different way it plays actually a game of Go, which was kind of a, you know, played for thousands and thousands of years. So he changed, you know, in a second, he changed his perception of how Go is played, you know, and he actually won against much better opponent because, well, and this one win actually, you know, changed his perception. And I think this is the moment, how to get something from outside, you know, and to change your perception in a way, how this outside actually brings something different, you know, something that is actually from before yours and so on, something you know, but then it totally changes it. And I think this might be kind of an analogy which might work at this question. I'm not sure, but it might be a good one.
So the future lies in the inclusion of the outsideness.
That's it.
I really think that it is important to broaden the lexical sphere, to make the borders. Like if you have, this is one sphere and this is another sphere, and this is the interlocutory sphere. I think we should need to destabilize those nets of barriers so that both can become one interlocutory net of understanding. Because we always see these semantic filters where interdisciplinary movements very often just come a drop on the glowing piece of charcoal, and after that it just falls into brittle ash and nothing remains. And the next project, the next publication project, oh amazing, we have done something interdisciplinary. Nobody in the disciplinaries can actually use it because it's just this interdisciplinary craziness. I'm not saying that against it. I say that's very often the understanding of it. And from that, I think we have to breach that understanding and be more inclusive of the experiment, both in theory and in science, so we can actually reconstitute our epistemological goal. And I think the grounding for that is pure epistemological understanding of the world, because it can be interjected in nearly every systematic field. Do you agree with that, or do you see other possibilities?
No, I think that's a kind of a great idea, but you know, there are still some power structures which are surrounding this kind of epistemological breach. You know, for example, you have mantas who are manta rays who are swimming in the sea, and they're breaching out. You know, but they come back. They have to come back because of the gravity. You know, and how even if the idea is coherent enough, is a great one, and even if I am, for example, would want to be part of that, and it's really hard to start and to finish that kind of an idea, you know, to bring it, because that becomes a problem of you know, the problem of one, of two, and so the philosophical problems, you know, how to divide one or not to divide it, to become, you know, this quickly becomes a philosophical discussion, which I think is an important one, but it's still hard to come from these epistemological ideas and direct it into, for example, you know, the idea of nations, into the ideas of whatever that makes a border. So, in a way, I would love to say that is a great idea, and I think it is a great idea, but I don't know how it is able for example, for humanity to actually make it work in the political and in the political situation that it is today. So I think the idea, for example, that we are doing also with Shroom, I think this is one of the kind of you have to try it. You have to try it. You have to try as much as you can and then see if it works. So this kind of a breaching of borders of something, just exiting from the previous constellations, previous systems, and so on. But yeah, I would say I agree with you. Sorry. So this was kind of just the first idea that came to my mind because it's a noble idea. You know, it's an idea that should work, but some it just doesn't. You know, it just doesn't.
We see a recursive element in history is the reemergence of counter-epistemic fields like New Age-isms that always are, or at least from my perspective, are interconnected with the reemergence of a love of the nation-state, a love of a particular nation-statist identities, and this counter-epistemic drive to drop out of vaccinations, to drop out of science, to go back to a kind of pre-modern nativism and into a kind of nation-state of barbarism. We see this I see this pretty much in the re-emergence of a Europe that is based on exclusion and not of inclusion. A Europe that owes so much to the Arab world in science, which this whole city would have not built without the Renaissance, which would have not been possible without the learnings of Arab scholars in mathematics.
For sure.
And now we see like a kind of drive away from this mathematical, scientific understanding. On the other side, we see a move in the left, of all places, away from science, saying that science, invented mostly in China, in India, and also in the Arab world, is somehow now a Western thing and has to be dismantled. And where it as is my understanding, it's more colonial theft. And I think the colonial theft of, not of objects, but of the theories and the implementations of it in the Western idea has to be much more dismantled and shown that it is not a Western notion. Science was not only developed by the Western world. It would have not been possible without Iranian mathematicians. The zero was not invented. The number zero was not invented in Europe. It was invented in India. So the first singularity that we are currently talking about doesn't come from the Western world. Singularity comes from India, of all places. And how can we counter this counter-epistemic, this drive for romanticizing, this drive for just believing in emotions? How can we build a political epicenter, so to speak?
That's a wonderful question. I actually have no answer to. But as you mentioned, for example, I have this. You have a magnificent book by Yu Hui on cosmotechnics in China, for example. That's a magnificent thing. He actually opposed, the Western notions, which kind of thought about China, and China, which thought about the Western notions of cosmology and so on. And I think that's one of the possibilities. You have people who are well versed in in both kind of traditions, and then try to kind of merge in a way. Not merge, because you cannot merge them. I don't see that it is mergeable, because it's still, as I said before, power structures. That's one thing I believe that they exist, and it's hard kind of just to say, yeah, for example, but it is kind of to contextualize in a way and to bring together. But how to bring that to, I would say, I don't know, to people? That's the idea of platforms. Idea of platforms, to platform different, for example, different but similar theoretical people from different theories, different ideas, for example, and bring them together. And, bring together people from different spheres in a way, not in the Slaughter-like way, but from literature, theory fiction, which is somehow, something that was going on for years now, but it still didn't bring kind of anything about. So people, for example, I don't know, for example, changed maybe to some more scientific way. So I don't see it so clear. I mean, it's clear what has to be done, but I don't know if the path can be so clearly mapped. The path to the ideas of that are, I think, not just ambivalent, but in a way ambiguous. It's, you have different people who are working on different things, but at some point, I think they're going into the same direction. I think it was quite vague what I said, but the question was so general, I really can't actually pinpoint, But it's a great question.
I think it was a good answer. Don't put yourself down. I think it was a good answer. And then one thanks for coming by. Thanks for dropping into Hyper Annotations. And we will soon see you with the next chit-chat session streamed live from Venice.
Thank you.
Thanks.